Hi, my name's Leo and I'm a boat builder and a sailor, and I'm on a mission to rebuild and restore this 110-year-old classic sailing yacht, TALLY. Now, after my last video, we actually all had a week off work, which was really nice. I think we all needed a little break after all the casting and grinding work, and now we're going to be able to come back and get stuck into the planking with renewed energy and enthusiasm. Now, I didn't do a great deal with my time off, mostly a lot of admin and catching up with emails and ordering things and all that fun stuff, but I did manage to take a couple of days off and actually go and have some fun, and I'm going to show you a little bit of that right now. But if you want to skip ahead and get straight to the boat building, just skip to this point in the video. So in my mountains of spare time, I've been working a little bit on my host's Honda CT90 here, which was running but not very well. I've done a little bit of work on it and just about to take it up for a little spin on the forest roads just the other side of town.
Oh my god, what is this?
Oh no! No worries. Hey, this is our week off, Leo.
Alright, so Charlie has been kind enough to offer me a ride in his aeroplane, Bessie, which is really exciting. Charlie, of course, is the guy who was helping out with video filming and editing for a little while. That didn't actually work out in the long term. He did a great job. He was really helpful while he was here. But it was just a little bit more work for various reasons than either of us had anticipated. So, but we're still on really good terms, and hopefully he's going to be involved in the project in different ways going forward. For now, I'm editing the videos again myself, but right now I'm just excited to go for a flight. So I've still got these batons on the hull of the boat that I put up last week, and I'm still fine-tuning them just a little bit, basically just trying to look at them from every conceivable angle and make sure that they're fair in every way and that all the spacing is even. These batons basically just split up the portion of the hull above the broads, above the tuck line, pretty much evenly, but there's some minor variations there which can quite dramatically affect the shape of the planks. But I am satisfied now that the batons are all where I want them, so I'm going to go ahead and mark them in permanent marker, and those will be our master plank lines. Okay, so now I've used those batons to draw out all the master lines on the hull. I do want to make some marks to represent the other plank seams in between, but I don't want to have to put up a baton on every single seam there, because that would take forever. So what I'm going to do is just make some marks on every second frame, and the way I'll do that is by using a plank scale, offering it up. That will very quickly and easily divide that distance between the two lines by 5 and give me a measurement. I'll then set my dividers to that measurement and then just mark off the 4 seams in between the 2 lines, making 5 planks there. Now all those little marks along the length of the hull should be fairly fair, but they don't have to be exactly fair because you'll see the fairness in the plank. They're more just a rough guide as you're planking to check if your planks are gaining, if they're getting bigger as you're planking, or getting smaller, and then you can take that error out in the next one to try and keep them roughly in the right place. The fairness of the actual plank will be really obvious when you're cutting it out and marking it. Now I'm making those marks on the forward face of the frames as well as the outside face, just because as we're planking we may be fairing the frames a little bit here and there, and this will allow us to keep those marks visible on the forward face of the frame even if we plane them off the outside face. So now that we have all the line out markings on the boat, it's time to start making planks. So the first step is to template a plank, and to do that I'm going to use strips of plywood. And for now I'm just going to use a simple spiling block to transfer the lines that are on the boat onto the plywood strips. Now there's various places where I could start planks. You could start at the bottom, you can start at the top, you can start in the middle. If you have several people planking, it's often nice to start at several places at once, so you can have several sets of planks going on at the same time. Now in this case I've decided to start one set of planking right in the middle of the turn of the bilge basically, and we'll start another set from the garboard up from the very bottom. They will then meet somewhere in the middle, and that's going to be a shutter plank, and it's important that that is at a place where the hull is convex rather than concave, because in a concave place like the tuck it could be very hard to get a plank in between 2 other planks. So we'll start with a nice straight right in the middle of the turn of the bilge. We'll plank down from there, we'll plank up from the bottom, and we'll plank up from that first line up to the shear straight as well. Okay, so now I've taken my pattern off of the boat. I've laid it on a board of Wana. I found a board which is approximately the right length for this plank. This is going to be the forward plank of the strake, and the other pattern I took will be the aft plank of the strake. The strake is the line of planks, and it's going to have 2 planks in it, so the butt where the 2 planks join is going to be roughly in the middle of the boat, although the forward one is a little bit longer. So now I've got the pattern on the plank, I'm going to use the same little spiral block, then I'm going to put nails in those marks and then line them up with a stiff batten, make sure I've got a nice fair curve, and then I'll draw that line and then I'll cut the plank out. Then I'll repeat the process with the after plank from the same strake, which is the other pattern that I've already made. Hey Pete.
Hey,
What are you doing?
Well, Rosie and Matt and I are transferring some plank lines from what's already been laid out on the starboard side, and we're just bringing them all over to the port side. So we're doing that. There's a few ways to do that. You can tick strip, you can do all kinds of things to get those lines over. We essentially have like 5 master lines, or important lines that break it up into windows, and so we are just leveling across with this string and a little bubble level that hangs on the string, and it's actually going pretty smoothly. We were using the water level earlier, but I think we kept getting airlocks in it and moving the hose around under the boat. We're doing a lot of lines. We're marking like 100 different ticks all over the place, and so anyway, this has been the best way to do it. This string can be your best friend sometimes.
Keep it simple, huh?
Yeah,
Low
simple.
tech.
So
Right.
so yeah, anyway, we'll scribe those lines over here and then divide those sections up for planking, and the boat should be symmetrical then.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
What's your job in there, Matt?
My job is checking level on this obscenely small bubble level. And yelling at Pete. Just kidding.
Yeah. I think down here we could almost, well, we're gonna level.
Probably like a quarter down. Keep coming.
Nice and loud, Matt.
Keep moving down.
So you're gonna stop saying keep coming, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, please do.
Continue moving downward.
Just say down or up.
Come up. Stop there. That's great.
So the guys have been working on polishing, doing the final polish of the bronze hanging lodging knees breast hooks. I tried to dissuade them, I tried to tell them not to, but they just insisted. They wouldn't let me stop them. They want to do it so bad. No, I'm kidding. But the truth is, we actually have a little bit of a labour surplus right now because as we're getting into the swing of the planking, it's a short period of time where there's not that much work to do for someone who's not trained in making planks and so on. So they're going to just do a final polish on the bronze, and then we're going to wax it, and then hopefully we'll be able to keep it in that nice condition. We're using a product called Renaissance Wax. It probably has to be reapplied every now and then, but it probably will prevent marks and discoloration of the bronze, hopefully. And once we've got a few planks ready, there's going to be a lot more work for everyone, hanging the planks, fastening them, and so on. But just for now, it's a little bit of a slow week for some of the guys, so they're keeping busy making these things look absolutely beautiful, and they're doing a great job. It's going to be amazing to see them all shining when they're finished. So David and Rowan have also been machining up some stock for butt blocks. So this is a piece of Purpleheart that they've ripped down, and we're using Purpleheart for the butt blocks, mainly just because I've got some extra lying around in short but wide chunks, which I'm not going to be able to do much else with. But as we know, it's a very strong, durable, rot resistant timber, so it'll be good for butt blocks. Now, in case you don't know, a butt block is the block which goes behind the butt joint where the ends of two planks meet. So on a boat of this size, usually the ends of the planks don't meet on a frame, they meet in between a frame, and so you put a block over that joint, overlapping the planks above and below it slightly and going almost to the frames, and that block will be riveted through with several fastenings per plank. So it's basically a simple way of joining two planks end to end. It's very traditional, it's standard practice on carvel plank boats like this. Some carvel boats, however, do have the butt joints land over the frames, which is fine as well, but normally where you see that, it's on larger boats with wider frames, and that just means that there's more surface area to put more fastenings in the ends of the planks, because you don't want the fastenings all bunched up right at the end of the plank. You want to spread them out a little bit to spread that load and give the end of the plank more strength. So now I've cut out the first two planks, which are going to butt together to form the first strake that I put on the boat. Now, of course, where the edge of a plank meets the next plank above or below it, it's not going to be a square joint. And there's various ways of dealing with that. The usual way is to split the bevel so that each plank has a slight bevel on either edge. As well as that bevel, you've also got to have the corking bevel, which is a further bevel which allows for the corking to be driven into the seams. We'll talk more about that later. But in terms of that first bevel, which simply allows the planks to butt up tightly against each other, I'm going to be dealing with that slightly differently in some of the planks at least, by just putting the bevel on one side of each plank. So what that means is that instead of splitting the bevel where two planks meet, that whole bevel will go on one plank and the other plank will have a square face. And the only reason for that is that it makes it quicker and simpler to cut the planks out and put them on. Now, bearing that in mind, these first planks are going to be the only planks, along with their matching planks on the other side of the hull, that are actually going to be square on both edges, because these are going to be the first ones that go on, and then the planks that go above and below this one are going to have bevels that match the square on this one, and so on, and then we'll come up from the bottom the opposite, and then the shutter plank will have the bevel on both sides. Now that's probably quite difficult to visualize without seeing it in a drawing or in real life, but I just wanted to mention it briefly. We're going to go back and look at that in much more detail when we put the next planks on. But for now, I just want to explain that these planks have square edges. That has been done on purpose, and it's going to allow us to basically plank the boat up quicker, hopefully. I do, however, have to put the corking bevel into the hood end and the stem, so that's the front of the forward plank where it meets the stem. There's going to be a corking seam there where cotton will be packed in up that stem rabbit. So I'll cut the angle where it meets the stem with a circular saw, and then I'll probably just plane the corking bevel into it with a block plane. The next job is to cut a concave surface into the backs of these planks so that they can fit up against the frames, which have a convex surface on their outside faces at this point in the hull. To do that though, I'm going to need a special tool, so I'm going to modify a power plane blade, grind it down so it's got a curve on it, and I'm also going to modify a hand plane so that I can clean that up if necessary. And I've already measured and taken a note of the curve of the different frames at different points along the hull by using these three little patterns, which have varying degrees of curve on one side of them. Okay, well the forward plank of this strake is pretty much ready, so I'm going to give it a quick coat of boat soup. That's boiled linseed oil, pine tar and turpentine and a little bit of penetrol, and then I'm going to try and get it on the boat. Well, that was a good start. I started off by painting the wrong side of the plank. What a plank. Okay, so we've got the first 2 planks, the first strake of blanking onto the boat, and obviously that feels really, really good. These planks have come out very well. I'm very pleased with them. They took far too long, but they were the first ones, so that's not too surprising. The last plank of the boat is supposed to take 1/10 of the time of the first one, so if we go by that rule, then we're looking okay. It's actually been a pretty busy week trying to get this done in the single week after we had our week off in time to get a video out for Saturday. But I really wanted to get a couple of planks on for this video, and so I'm really pleased that these are now on the boat. Now I did have an issue with one of the planks. After I'd cut it out, I realised that it actually had a little bit of sapwood in it, which I hadn't noticed. And I'm not really used to the sapwood of this timber, Wana. I now know what the sapwood looks like. It's kind of 2 stages of sapwood. The first is very obvious, the second isn't so obvious. So there was a bit of sapwood in it, and there was also some insect holes where some kind of bug had been eating into the wood, which I only saw when I cut it out. They looked very minor, and I started digging. I was going to just put a couple of plugs in. I actually found that they went really quite deep. So I actually decided to cut a portion of the plank away, and I basically grafted another piece of Wana timber in there to get rid of all that sapwood and all the bug holes. That's not something I really like to do, but in this case the plank was pretty much finished, and it was a really nice plank apart from that, and I really didn't want to waste it. But the piece I put in, it's actually almost a triangular piece, and it's pretty much mostly on the inside of the plank. It only comes out a little bit onto the outside right at the end. So it's sort of encapsulated by between the plank and the frame and the plank below. So it's going to be really well contained there, even if the glue was to fail one day. But it does have a really large gluing surface area. It was cut at a 45, and it's a long piece as well. And I glued that with epoxy and made sure I prepped it really well. Used the correct filling compounds. I was very careful with the temperature and the mixing ratios and everything like that. So I'm confident that's going to be a very strong glue joint. But even if for some reason that fails, and I hate to put my trust in glue, that piece is encapsulated on all sides, so it's very unlikely that it could cause any problems. So I'm hoping that insect damage isn't going to be an issue in the rest of the stock. Just going to have to be careful about that. Other than that though, the stock was really nice to work. It planes really easy, it works really nicely, and the best thing is it actually bends and edge sets into shape really easily, and it seems to twist pretty well as well. So while I've been messing around with these stupid planks, the guys have been working really hard on various other things inside and outside the boat. David and Rowan have been polishing up all the knees and their final polish and getting some wax on so that they're going to stay looking nice. Pete, Rosie and Matt have been working on transferring all the line outlines from the starboard side to the port side, which is actually a lot more work than it seems. A lot of careful measuring from one side to the other with various levels, and then double checking everything using batons to make sure those lines are fair. But it's important to have those lines pretty accurately the same on both sides, because we're hoping that when we're making planks we can use the plank from one side to pattern the plank on the other side, and therefore save us quite a lot of patterning work. Okay, well that's about all we got time for right now. The guys have started fastening the plank, just drilling and driving rivets through, and they've also started patterning for the garboards. So we'll look in much more detail at both of those things in the next video. But for now, I'm so happy to have a couple of planks on the boat. It's really, really exciting to be moving on to the next stage. And I'm so grateful for all the people who are here, who are helping, but also for all of you guys out there making this possible. As you know, this project is fully funded now by viewers from YouTube, which is just amazing. So I can't thank you enough, really. So yeah, we'll see you in another 2 weeks. Cheers.